Well, it is a brand new year. As you know, each January, most people resolve to better themselves or to make lifestyle changes in some way or another. And whether it's joining the gym, it's quitting smoking, it's avoiding junk food from their diet, or simply just starting a business, or even perhaps cutting out alcohol intake. But within weeks or days, in some sad cases, these New Year's resolutions will be broken. Only a small percentage of people actually make good on the resolutions. Why is it so hard to stick to these goals? Let's unpack this to help you stick to your goals, your resolutions for 2026 and beyond. We're going to be joined virtually by clinical psychologist Charity Mkone. Charity, Happy New Year. Very good morning. Welcome to the show.
Happy New Year to you too, and thank you for having me.
Right, so we're going to try look at how we can ensure there's longevity when it comes to goals and resolutions. And with the new year upon us, as we think of New Year's resolutions, I mean, it's natural to reflect on what can be improved upon, how we can better ourselves, contemplate some changes as well, what worked, what didn't work. I wonder if you could weigh in. Does it help that society pushes us to do just that? How should we be, what's the relationship we should be having to what the New Year symbolizes?
I think that's a very pertinent question because I think for most people at the dawn of the new year, what we have is a lot of hope, particularly if the year that has passed didn't go particularly well and there were certain things that you were looking forward to that didn't materialize or certain plans that you had and goals. So there's something about the sun orbiting around and then we have a new year that brings people a lot of hope for change and for things being different. And I do think that is something that is helpful and that is important to have hope, that if we didn't have hope as human beings, life would be pretty tough. So there's something about setting your mind or having plans for a future that is different, that allows us essentially as the human race and as human beings to keep on going. But I guess what does make it difficult is that we overestimate some of the things, and sometimes we do what we call magical thinking in terms of what can be achieved in any given year, particularly given our history and what we've gone through. So for instance, a lot of people will set unrealistic goals. I know a big one is for weight loss, for instance, or people eating healthy or whatever it is, that there's something about almost shocking your body and shocking your system, going from nothing to really restricting yourself or doing something that's quite extreme. And what we're needing to understand is that change is a very gradual and also very difficult process. And that if real change is to take place and to be affected and to really be effective, it needs to be something that is gradual. So instead of looking at it as I want to change a particular thing, you take the things that were outstanding from the previous year and try and tweak those things and see what it is that caused the previous year or what happened in the previous year to not go as you had planned. And that's where you start working from. Because if we don't do a good enough, what we call a post-mortem of what some of the things that did not go right and some of the things that were happening in the previous year that caused you to not meet your goals, if you don't revisit those thoroughly enough to see where the holes were, what it is that you need to plug, then it does become very difficult to then go into a new year and feel confident that there's certain things that you can do, and also doing things very gradually, because change is hard, and for change to be sustainable, it needs to happen in small doses and very gradually in order for it to be sustained and sustainable over a longer period.
Yeah, Charity, thank you for those wise words. So just looking at, just to your point, New Year's for the 1st of January, I mean, it's not the calendar that that other cultures obviously use as a starting point. So I like the fact that you say there's different starting points, and even as our relationship to failure has to be reckoned with as well, because you can also just pick up where you left off and look at the capacity building that comes with that. And you might want to look at the pressure of external factors such as social media, because a lot is being posted on what is happening or what people are curating so that they can come across as, celebrating. But we know there's that epidemic of loneliness as well, and busyness. So talk to us a little bit more about how those external pressures are also not making it easier to perhaps get that long-term ingrained habits entrenched.
Absolutely. I mean, you absolutely spot on in terms of the pressures that come with social media and the unrealistic pressures. And I think that is something that we need to factor in, that a lot of what people curate and post and put up on social media is not the full picture of what's happening in people's lives and in people's existence, because it's a curated picture of what you want people to see. And there's a bigger picture, something a lot more three-dimensional that you don't actually are privy to with other things that are not posted on social media. So what is helpful is to be able to self-reflect. And I think that's a big thing, that you're able to self-reflect about what is happening in your particular life, in your circumstances, and what it is that you are needing to be able to have a life that you wouldn't, to minimize regrets. And I think that is the thing with change, that with each year, with the start of something new and with the enthusiasm that comes with that, that it is important to consider what it is that you can do to try and minimize regrets when you get to the other side of 2026. And in December 2026, what steps can you put in so that the regret that you're sitting with things that were unmet or unrealized, is minimized? You can't do away with it completely, because life is also out of our control in certain circumstances. But it is important to think to yourself, most importantly, before even setting resolutions, what can I do to minimize some of the regrets that I have carried into this year, so that some of those things don't repeat in the new year. And I think that is quite important to factor in and think about. And also that external pressures are not all that they seem, that what you see on social media is not the full picture. It is what people curate and want you to see.
Also, timelines are relative. Sometimes the process, actually, it's always the process that is the purpose. And sometimes the timelines aren't as realistic in achieving what you want in a year. And so when we look at that, reassess that in relation to one specific context, I mean, is there a strategy that will ensure that, you know, people don't just throw the aspirations away come February, so that they can prioritize, you know, what they think they need to achieve versus making sure that they're healthy, they're balanced as well? I mean, we've seen the issues of mental health as well. That comes to the fore also. How do we ensure that there is, you know, goal-driven orientation, striving, but there's also realistic expectations and management on that front?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm really glad that you asked that question, because realistic goals is what is most important. I think the first thing that would be most important is to get accountability. So for some of the resolutions and plans and things that you want to achieve in your life, let a friend in, tell someone, speak to a professional, get help. And I think that is what sets a lot of people back, because there's certain things that you'd need to do where you do need help, either from a professional, particularly when it comes to mental health. And I think sometimes trying to boil the ocean, so doing everything by yourself and wanting to soldier through. And I think that's the ethos that comes with the new year, where people feel this new surge of a power or something that's different, that will propel them to heights that they've never been to. And if you want to get there and want to do different things, then you employ different strategies. And I think the one thing that's always very helpful is to get help. Be accountable to people for some of your goals. If it's fitness, get a professional, speak to a nutritionist, a dietitian, the gym. So that makes it a lot more easier and a lot more manageable to get plans that you can stick to, and things where you're held accountable by someone who's either achieved something like that, or professional in whatever area of your life or sphere of your life where you're wanting to see change and wanting to see lasting and sustainable change.
Comparison is also the thief of joy. How dangerous is it to also compare oneself to other people? I mean, it's relative, right? You're in your own lane.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times what people don't realize is that what you see of other people, like I mentioned with social media, is what you perceive of them.
Yeah.
And the reason why we often compare ourselves and feel very dissatisfied with ourselves is because we know ourselves a lot more deeper and a lot more intimately than other people know. And that's the thing, that other people's struggles and what they're going through is what they know quite intimately themselves. And even though you're not in on it, there is something about everyone having struggles and everyone having something that they're grappling with, even though on the outside it might look like they have or possess some of the things that are aspirational to you or things that you want for yourself. But it is to understand that most of the time we show people what we want them to see. And
Yeah.
what we don't want them to see, we keep out of view. And so what you're comparing yourself to, again, is just but the tip of the iceberg. Is not everything. It's not the full picture of what the person is going through or what it is that you're seeing or comparing yourself to.
Yeah.
That there's a fuller and bigger picture to that. And you need to consider that too when you do compare yourself or you're looking at someone else's life or looking through your neighbor's window and seeing what's going on.
Yeah, and keeping up with the Joneses. Those are some wise words, Charity. I'm even looking at the role of routine at this time of the year, the role of external environments as well. I mean, what do they do when it comes to, how you maintain that willpower and that drive to remain accountable as well?
I think gradual. So it's when they say the Eiffel Tower wasn't built in one day, it's true.
Okay.
And it is important to really pace ourselves that everything that's worth doing, everything that you want to do and sustain is gradual. And that change, any kind of change, is very difficult. It's hard and it's something that cannot be done in an hour. It's not something that can be done even in 12 months. There's certain things that do take time. So I do think that in this very fast-paced world that we live in, where everything is very rapid and the microwave generation, as some people call it, it has been very difficult to be patient with ourselves, be patient with certain processes, and realize that whatever is worth doing will take time, and whatever it is that's worthwhile. And if you want to sustain something over the long run, then it does take time to build that thing and also to sustain it in a way that is meaningful to you.
So it's a continuation of growth rather than a reset. This is what I'm hearing from you. So I wonder if people are watching and you've got some tools that you'd like to impart as well to continue on that growth path for 2026. Any words of wisdom that you can impart on that front, please?
So I think what is most important is to take stock, and we don't do that nearly enough. So before you can start and embark on something new or wanting to change something quite drastically in your life, what is important is to go back and take stock on what are the things that did not work, what were some of the things that were challenging, what were the things that you felt did not work out. And once you have a very clear picture of what it is that is not working, then you'll know where to start and you'll know what it is, what direction to take in terms of the changes that you're wanting to make and resolutions that you're wanting to stick to. So sometimes we do get very squirmish and our minds are very squirmish. I mean, as human beings and human nature, the principle is to always maximize pleasure and minimize any sort of pain. And sometimes looking back and going into the past can cause pain. So what we want to do is just have all the hope in our hearts to make something different. But what is helpful, even though it's difficult, is to continuously go back, take stock at our lives and see what it is that is not working out before we can even start on embarking on making changes or doing things differently. It is important to look back, take stock, so that you know what footing you're starting on for whatever hopes or dreams or resolutions or plans or goals that you have for the new year.
Yeah, because people some have anxiety, there's financial burdens and distresses. Time is just a major factor, and we're so holistic as humans. There's the emotional component, the mental, the spiritual. Where does one begin as well? If you're looking at what tools can also assist, if someone is in need of a starting point, is in need of some words of wisdom, how would you advise them on that front as they cater to the whole self?
It's to seek help. So to get someone involved and looking at all the domains of your life. If it's financial, get tools that will help you with your finances. Speak to a financial advisor. If it's something that's mental or spiritual, get someone who is an expert in that and to try and begin to enlist the help and the assistance of people who know, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your body, whether it's your mind, there are people who are there and tools to assist you. And that's where you start, that there's certain things that you can do on your own and certain things that you can Google. I mean, Dr. Google knows everything, or AI or whatever it is. But some of those things cannot replace the expertise of people who know about these things. It cannot replace the expertise of a financial advisor, of a psychologist, of a doctor, of whatever it is that you're trying to work on, to be able to, it actually, you need a lot of courage to ask for help and to seek help for some of the things that you want to brave out on your own, because then what will inadvertently happen is that you'll get to the other side of 2026 with a lot of things still unchecked and unmarked. And if you go in and some of the very important domains of your life and you seek help from a professional, they'd be able to tell you how realistic or unrealistic and scale some of the goals and resolutions that you have in a way that would help you to be proud of some of the achievements that you make, as opposed to over planning and being unrealistic about a lot of goals that you have, only to sit with a lot of disappointment at the end of the year.
Yeah, and there's also lots of trends and fads that go. You know, the one year it's the year of saying yes, the other it's the year of saying no. It's all context and it's relative to where you are and obviously what's needed. The role of connection, I mean, I am because you are. So also knowing that there's that healthy support structure that empowers you, and the role of nature in this fast-paced world, perhaps even just as we on so many gadgets as well. How do these factors also play a part?
I think simplicity, everything that you've mentioned and some of the things that you're mentioning go back to the core of who we are as human beings, that we've lost a lot of simplicity due to aspirations and things that we want in social media and in the age of artificial intelligence. So things like being in nature, being outside, sunshine, reduced screen time, which is difficult for a lot of people, but there are simple things, and connecting with loved ones, with families, friendships. So certain things that are building blocks to what make human beings thrive. And some of those things are quite simple, and a lot of them don't even need to cost you money. And I think being able to scale down and simplicity and returning to the simplicity is also made possible by taking stock and seeing where it is and just the building blocks of the hierarchy of needs. Sometimes people just don't eat enough. People don't sleep enough. And our bodies are not well rested. So physically, everything becomes a strain. And then it also affects our mental health. So very simple, basic self-care things before we can get to the pinnacle of some of the very lofty and high goals that we have for ourselves as human beings. It is important to always reset and have moments and times where you can reset and go to just the basics of life, because life does get very busy and very hectic.
I'm so glad you've spoken to sleep, because I know that, you know, we're so mentally overstimulated. Our nervous systems are overstimulated. That also is something we have to be very intentional about. And also what we consume, because there is that brain-gut health connection as well, which many people, you know, need to be cognizant of. What about just expressing yourself? Colors, textures of fabrics. I mean, connecting to things in and around you to express who you fully are, to make the world understand that. If they're not clear, make it abundantly clear. Talk to us a little bit more about that as you speak to some of the intentions that we set.
Yes, so I think what you're speaking to is the role of art and creativity.
Okay.
As human beings, we are creative beings. Everything in nature, and we belong to nature, is creative. Things die, things regenerate, and there's always creation happening all around us. And that is part of the simplicity of being a human being, that we all do need a form of creative expression. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a Picasso or be able to be a world-class artist, but there's certain things that you can do to be able to express yourself, particularly when people are very stretched and all we can do, and what we always do mostly, is work to make ends meet, to keep afloat in the economy and some of the things that are happening, that we neglect a lot of play, what we simply call in psychology play, and being able to have a creative output, a creative outlet, and things that cause us to just unplug and unwind from all the very serious life challenges and life things that we always have to tackle. So a creative output is also part of the things that are an extremely important aspect of toning down and really going back to the basics of what makes us humans, creating, playing, and having time to really connect with nature, to connect with loved ones, and simplifying things from how this fast-paced life and fast-paced industrial revolution that we're in.
Well, Charity, plenty more to unpack, of course, as the year of 2026 continues. You started things off for us, shared some invaluable tools and wisdom. Thank you for your time. Happy New Year. Wishing you all the best, of course, as you also navigate 2026. We're looking at goal setting for 2026 with clinical psychologist Charity Mkone, speaking about how, we make New Year's resolutions stick. And of course, some of the do's and don'ts, bypassing those fads and making sure that they are long-term. Again, thank you to Charity for joining us at this hour. Let's leave it there. And upon our return, top of the hour, we'll continue with more news and updates. Stay tuned.